Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a brand new and very exciting episode of Opinions That Matter. Many of you would agree with me that the Indian pharma industry is very unique because we believe in nurturing talent from within. We have innumerable examples of medical representatives rising ranks and reaching the top. We have many medical representatives who are today heading big corporates and taking the organization to even greater heights. Today, we have an opportunity of speaking to one such living example, Mr. A.K. Handa, who's the president of Center Pharmaceuticals. Mr. Handa started his journey as a medical representative and has worked in various functions, including sales and marketing, product management, and today is heading Center Pharma to greater heights. So, welcome to Opinions That Matter. Sir, congratulations for Synarest winning the AVAX PharmaRec Marketing Excellence Award. Now, this is the 7th time in a row that Synarest has won the award. What's so special about Synarest? Can you please tell us why is Synarest always the jury's favorite?
It does make me proud and make me proud of the team because it's everybody's effort which is together put in. And this is FIFA season. And if you look at FIFA, the first is the goal, the second the brace, hat-trick. Then you have the whole glut, then double hat-trick. And this was double hat-trick on the trot earlier. And now you have the seventh is called the whole trick. I think it's nice, and I've also had the industry colleagues come back and ask me, there must be something which is happening good and nice with Synarest. But I tell my people, what is one part of the story? I tell them stay grounded. You know, just about little time back, I was in the clinic of Dr. Vatsal Parekh. And Dr. Vatsal Parekh needs no introduction. He is the leading eminent retina surgeon in Bombay. And I told him, I said, you are a doctor of international acclaim. He was the first to get a equipment which is Silverstone Optos retinal imaging machine costing few crores. And he tells me to slow down, and he recites a verse from Koshtaki Upanishad, and which is Esha hi ev sadhu karam karyati yam tam ebhya lokebhya utnanishyate. Now the verse says that anybody God wants to succeed or have fame, so he makes them do good things. So I came back, it was a good lesson. You know, so I was just thinking, I thought that look, Bhagavad Gita, you have that your right is unto duty, not fruit thereof. And here he has this Koshtaki Upanishad shloka which he recited. So what it says is that till you accomplish, you go by the verse which Bhagavad Gita says. You see, so that you are focused and your total concentration doing what you are doing. You're not thinking of the fruit. But once when you have accomplished, I thought this Koshtaki Upanishad, this verse, it does you good. So actually you've got to be swaying between both of them. Any brand, leave aside Synarest, you see any brand in the industry, which brand does good. So one thing which is important is that the entire organization has got to be aligned. So it is not an individual one person, so it's the entire company. We have that 7S framework, you know, which everybody knows, which is your skill and structure and style and system and strategy and staff and superordinate. I'll give you a Desi version of it, which is closer to my colleagues in the company, and I always tell them. I said, look, the brand is like a seed. So when you carry the seed has got to be good quality. And the quality is very essential and important because apparently, you know, the myth that since regulatory approved all brands same quality. If you look at US, the doctors, 60% of them would think that one product, same formulation, is different from the other in quality. In fact, the general public, they say 50% in the survey, they say 50% think this quality is not the same as the other. So you've got to have good quality. If you look at from 1950 till 2017, I think about 484 products were withdrawn because of quality. And I'm speaking of FDA. And that is how it had happened. And in fact, if every year see the 200 products which are recalled, of those 200 products, 85% are quality issues. So your seed has got to be good quality. So once when you are carrying Synarest, let's say, so good quality product to carry, then you've got to have a fertile soil. And that's why these young marketers, they know it better than I do. I mean, they do that market research. And you have the term which they use is that I think RCPA. So do the RCPA, you carry the brand to the right doctor, very essential and important. You water it every day. That is because that's the frequency of visits. You can't have missed calls in between. So you've got to be familiar, regular visits. Doctor should recognize you. And then sun, I call the sun the signs. I call the rains the campaigns. I call clouds the opportunities. And then there's something called the wind. No, so the wind is the feedback. And this feedback is very important. Centaur, we have one great difference. We believe that you don't go to tell about the product to the doctor, you can ask. You see, that is how it is. And if you look at the new chemical entities which have been introduced, I'll give you my own example. Voxil has been one, we give Centaur's example. Voxil, 12 years, the R&D, the back-end team worked on it. Multiple clinical trials which were done. So 12 years you work on a product, Voxil comes, the first time in the world. There are only, I think, a handful of molecules which India has introduced for the first time as new chemical entities. So when we did this for diabetic foot ulcer, so we knew the molecule better than anybody else. Obviously, because you work on that molecule for 12 years. But once when you introduce a product, I believe in just about a month's time, clinician knows the product better. So one is that brand like Synarest, I think over the years, so it has to work. So that means that trust and efficacy, they've got to be established. Doctor has to experience. Now that is very important. So that's the wind. So that means the wind is important. Then you have the fertilizers. Fertilizers, nothing but the nutrition. You must keep on reinforcing science in your brand through maybe the updates and new medical references. Even today we have a series called Science in Synarest. So that means we only carry science into the clinic. So we have Science in Synarest. We also have some recent advances in sinusitis, and so that's what we do. So that's then you have the tools, and these are the platforms. You see, the platforms today have changed. You have the digital platform, you have the conferences, advisory meetings. So these are the platforms which you use, and then most of all, you have the gardeners, and I mean you have the brand managers, your PMT colleagues, you have the medical reps and the field managers. So these are the gardeners, and that means they do the job. Then you find the seed, not only sprouts, you got those leaves. I call these leaves the clinical visit outcomes. And then you have the fruits and the flowers, and these are the prescriptions. And then you find someday Synarest becomes a banyan tree, and you sit under and bask under its shade. And this is how it is. So that means you do that work initial, and then you reap benefits later. And this is how the entire Srishti works. So any brand which is leading the portfolio, which is forged ahead a bit, so it begins to attract both investment and attention, which is from the company, from everybody. And so success begets success. I think that is how it happens.
So can you tell us more about Synarest then? What has been the journey of Synarest? How has the brand evolved over the years?
So Richa, another very interesting thing I'll tell you is, before 95, because I've been in the organization over 33 years now. So before 1995, we were not even the fifth brand as far as Synarest is concerned. In fact, syrup we were still yet behind. So we did tweak the formulation, we did the packing, we brought in some positioning, new statements. It took us time. 96 we became the brand leader. And interestingly, in 1999, there was a Yale University study which happened for 5 years, and that study linked the PPA, the phenylpropanolamin, with cerebral hemorrhage. And during that period, coincidentally, you see, our chairman, Mr. S.D. Sawant, was in London. So he was at Trafalgar Square, and he was at Boots Pharmacy. And that's where he calls me up, and he tells me, he says, look, Mr. Anda, I see that all those brands which contain PPA, they are getting removed from the front of the shelves in the pharmacy. And we had a discussion. We decided then and there, I think we should immediately try and change, because we could see that forthcoming withdrawal of the ban coming from US FDA. And imagine at the speed at which he worked, even before he landed in India. and he had activated every department. I think we were the first to change. And when we changed, I think we carried the statement to everybody, to the doctors. We said for millions now who should not use PPA because it causes cerebral hemorrhage and stroke. I think that's and we bring you Cinerest. So I think that was the positioning statement. We repositioned the entire brand, and it started working for us. And it worked leaps and bounds. We grew by leaps and bounds that point of time with that shift and change. We also had a problem because earlier, you see, you were with the doctors the formula in the past. What also happened then we said that Cinerest has evolved with evolving rational medical science. And that was important to tell them because the story which Yale University, which we had to give you. So what was good doesn't remain good anymore. This is science. And we have also been doing a lot of research with the doctors. I can tell you, we one company with 22,000 doctors. We started capturing fever and cold trends, and which we did with 22,000 doctors. We did this across India, different seasons, and we did that every month. And today you have the cold index. You see, so we prune down to sizable, statistically significant sample, and we get that. So this is an epidemiological long study which we will do, and which we continue. I think that's how we keep on reinforcing the story. Our main core theme remains as the theme is. That we keep on doing because at the end of the day they say that Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. You see, so it's the same truth, but different brand managers come in, they want to express it differently. Number one. Second, with sequence of visual aids, keep on reinforcing it. I think that is how. That's where it is. So today, Cinerest continues to do what it is doing. It's a brand which we go and ask the doctors. I think it's trusted. We generate 2 prescriptions per second. So it's God has been kind. People have worked hard. Everybody, all departments. And I think I have to salute my medical reps, the field colleagues, and the brand managers. In addition to everybody, the office, all departments.
Now, sir, since I've had the opportunity of interacting with you many times before, I know that you have so many examples and stories to share when it comes to the change that has happened with the overall industry, how the working environment has changed. Why don't you share a few examples or a few of your stories with our audience as well?
Yeah, a lot of things have changed. You see, the facilities are plenty today for and I'll give you an example what I mean by infrastructure has changed. The technology is different. The platforms, which analytic platforms everybody has, are different. So I'll give you one very interesting incident. You know, I was working in a place called Balrampur in UP, and you will understand what I mean. And there is Tulsipur is another interior, and this is Lucknow, Gonda, Balrampur, Tulsipur. You see, that's where I went and worked. I'm speaking of way back, maybe 40 years. And this place is about 20-25 years. There's this gentleman, he was the colleague of mine. So he told me, he said, sir, there's no pakka tar road. So it's all, and it's very dusty. And should we go by the motorcycle? I can tell you, we'll be all dressed in dust. So he said, what do we do? And he says, it's also risky because the mobile may slip. So I said, what do we do? He said, my neighbor has horses. So he says, I'll ask him, and he'll give us horses. So I said, I did only in the school when I did that horse riding. So he says, sir, then he's giving me gyan. The gyan which he's giving me, he says, 3 things in life you don't forget. He says, you don't forget swimming, you don't forget horse riding, you don't forget cycling. So don't worry, sir, you'll be safe. And these are very friendly horses. They are tamed, they are domestic. So I said, all right. So imagine we go 20-25 kilometers, both of us trot on the horse, takes us over an hour. And when we reach there, as the stockist, first we go there, we said, please look up and see that we are presentable in the clinic. So we go to that stockist, looks at us. So he says, sir, kya lenge? I said, humko chai pilaiye, inko ghas dijiye. So that has changed. I still remember, and then technology. We didn't have mobile phones during those days. I had a colleague of mine, his name was Jagmohan Singh Bist, and I'm working at a place called Joshimath in Uttarakhand, now Uttarakhand. And it is, these towns had a rule, you can't leave them after 8 o'clock in the evening. And we were working the whole day. Past 8 o'clock, we can't leave the town because they close the gates. They believe that there would be landslides and problems. And it was, I think it was the month of March, and the temperature was 3 degrees at night. And just ahead, you could see snowfall everywhere. And I think the next day, Badrinath Ji was opening. And there was no place, we had a place to live. We never thought we were going to stay there. We thought we'll come back. And we didn't get a hotel. Now there's a problem. So this gentleman, I remember his name, Mr. Dobriyal. And Mr. Dobriyal was the forest officer there. So I meet him. So I tell him, I said, look, he said, don't worry, I'll try and put you in the forest guest house, which he could not. So I told him, I said, take my landline number just in case, you see, because we'll freeze too. We don't know what happens at night. So he took pity on us and takes us to his home. And imagine two strangers, we go and stay night at a home of another stranger. He didn't know us. And morning we had a hearty breakfast. And so what has happened over the years, if you ask me the change, the social support has gone down. And I'm not speaking only of the time when you travel. You see, it's also the families and society in general. Technology is gone up. And technology is gone up to an extent that today you know everything which you capture as demographics and psychographics, the profiling of the doctor, whatever you do, you capture it remains there. Even if the managers, if the new man comes in, so he has that everything ready. So today, if we have the demographic profile, we call them sex, age, geography, education, family, income, religion, and we also call those psychographies or activities, interests, opinions. So you capture them. We today capture the passions of doctors. In fact, I'm one company where I've got that entire program. Wherever doctors' passions are captured, and they do good. So technology has been one big advantage. There is an area where there's been no change, and that area has been the MR and Doctor Connect today remains the biggest predictor of new brand prescription.
So from what I hear, science and ethics seems to be the hallmark of Centaur. How do you sustain this business model?
So what happens here is, so as you know, in Bhagavad Gita, it is yat yat acharati shreshtaha tatta devitro jana. So yat pramane kurute lokas tatanuvartate. So it is as the rajas for the praja, as the principal, the school, so as the fathers, the family, and as the head of the organization, so as our chairman, so the organization, everybody underneath. So the philosophy has been, let us stick to science. And there's something which I very strongly believe is that there are two concerns that the doctor has. What are those two concerns? One is that quality products. That's all. You want high quality product. And second, you want the patient benefit. That means you want the clinical outcome. So you want the patient benefit. Now these are the doctor's concerns. These are my concerns. So once when you find that these two concerns are matching, so the relationship is established. So I think that's the basis of the relationship. So we keep on reinforcing science all the time. And second is that I do a lot of surveys to find out if I'm on the right track. You know, it may not be that my people are not happy, the reps are not happy with the practices, with only scientific practices which we adhere to. So I do that survey. I also do with the doctors. So I had 10 things which I had written down. And of those 10 things which I did, so I picked up the top 3. The doctors felt, the colleagues felt. You see, so my field staff and everybody felt. So there are 3 things which emerged and for this organization. So one is that quality, second is science, third is ethics. Well, I believe that it's at one hand you have the personality, another hand you have the performance. So that means it may not be performance, the business goes up, the personality goes down. So I always say the personality is important, your career, development, growth. So I think that focus remains. It's working for us. And I think we are not good at doing anything else. And that is another thing, that we may not be capable of influencing the doctor in any other manner. And they say that jaisi chaha vaisi raha. So we always find our way. And what is important is that you must have the faith and conviction versus you have, of course, the doubt and reluctance. So if you are very strongly convinced, so we have been sticking to it. I told you, I said we still, even today, there's never a visit which a medical rep has to do into the clinic where we are not undertaking some scientific survey. You see, so that we keep on doing. So we keep asking the doctors questions a little too many on different cases. And I mean, we've always got one project or another which is happening in the organization. There's never a month when center is not doing some in-clinic project. And that's what I think keeps us kicking. Second thing is that there is an advantage for a man like me being in the organization for 30 plus years. So that means nobody can come in and sway and switch you from your current focus on science, on scientific marketing. And we have a workshop which we do. This will be interesting for you. So Richa, I am one company where every month we do a workshop. And what is that workshop? We have a query model in the company. So this is a query workshop. So that means what are those questions which we have to ask the doctors? And so everybody has to write them down. So imagine if there are 30, 40 people in the product management team, sales heads, everybody is doing that work. So we have an inventory of the questions. Then the ones which are medical questions, we go and ensure that they are reinforced by, they are validated by the medical. So that means we get that inventory, so we keep on undertaking all these surveys. And that is how I think we get. So that interaction becomes both ways.
So thank you so much for this interaction. It is lovely talking to you. As always, I love speaking to you on various occasions. Thank you so much. And thank you to our audience for joining us today morning. Have a lovely day ahead.